farms. Here's an example of a farm that is still here on Sleeping Bear Dunes. It, of course, is the Pyramid Point Farms. We actually met the people who own this farm while we were traveling. They are a delightful couple who still live in this farmhouse. We were so surprised because this farm is on the property, or it seems like it's on the property of Sleeping Bear Dunes, but it's not actually. Let's talk to Laura Lee and hear her story about this beautiful farm.
Well, good morning, Pete. My name is Laura Lee Dzelski.
Laura Lee, can you tell me how it is you live here in the National Lakeshore property on this beautiful farm?
Well, it happened a long time ago, actually way back in 1910. My grandfather, who worked in Chicago, had his best friend tell him about this, and so he came up here and decided this is where he wanted to start his farm and bring his new bride up here and spend his life up here. His name was Fred Baker.
Why is it you're able to stay in this house here on the National Lakeshore property?
Well, when the park decided they wanted to buy all this and preserve it, my mom and my dad were farming this. We had 34 horses and we raised hay and corn, wheat, oats, everything to feed our animals. And so the law said that the government could not take our land away from us if this was our livelihood, and it was. So they let us keep it, but they made my mom and my dad sign an agreement that is actually attached to the deed. And so if you would go to the courthouse and look it up, you would find this agreement, and it says that they can't develop it, they can't put any big hotels here or resorts, can't build any new buildings unless it's where there's already an existing foundation. So that's how we got to keep this.
I am so happy there was a law in place that says they cannot take away your livelihood. What a great thing that you were able to stay here on your grandfather's property and raise your family. This is such a beautiful place, and I'm so glad you're sharing it with us. Can you tell me how many acres are here or were here when you started?
I'm not sure how much he bought when he first came up, but I remember growing up talking about we had 450 acres.
Laura Lee, how long have you lived here on this property?
Well, then I'd have to tell you how old I am, and ladies don't tell their age, but I'll be glad to. I was born in 1941, and I lived here growing up until I left for college. And then after college, I went away and spent my whole career. I was a kindergarten teacher and in Los Angeles, California, and then we moved to Florida, and that's where we raised our family. And then when I retired, I decided instead of just coming up here to visit on vacation for 2 weeks every summer, I wanted to come back here and live here every summer. So I have started coming back here since about 2002, and I spend all summer up here until the snow falls, and then we head south.
Wow. So, if you grew up here on this farm, can you tell us a little bit about going to school? What was it like going to school here?
Well, when I started my first year in school, I went to a little one-room schoolhouse that had grades kindergarten through 12th grade. And I had my mother for my teacher. And then from my first and second grade, I went to a two-room schoolhouse down in Glen Arbor and had my mother for a teacher. And then third and fourth grade, I went to a little bigger school down in Empire. And then I went to a private school here in Glen Arbor for 4 years because, again, my mother was a teacher there, although I didn't have her for my teacher then. And then I went my last 2 years of high school to Glen Lake Community Schools. And this is interesting. It covers the communities of Cedar, Empire, Maple City, and Glen Arbor, all those schools, and I had a total of 21 kids in my graduating class.
Holy mackerel, that is so interesting. There are 25 students right in my third grade class alone. Laura Lee, I would love to have you come and talk to my third graders. Would you do that sometime and tell them about your horse story?